Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Zanzal, coach, ordained minister, grandma, mama of four, and a queer woman married to my lovely, gorgeous wife after I came out later in life. This is Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories, a podcast for everyone exploring identity, queerness, and what it means to live more truthfully, no matter our age or stage. We share stories of coming out, starting over, resiliency, how to navigate relationships, grief, joy, and building lives that actually fit us as human beings. No labels required, just curiosity, courage, and a little faith in this journey. Welcome. Let's dive in.
You're not too late. You're right on time. Now is the time to sign up for Wing Women Weekend, October 15th to 18th in Provincetown, Massachusetts. This isn't just a conference, it's a lifeline for women and non-binary folks who are new to queer community. Provincetown is a place that has wrapped its arms around the queer community for decades. And when you join our group during the iconic annual Women's Week, you'll be stepping into a place where the energy is electric. Here is where you'll be seen, celebrated, and safe in your new queer identity. Participants report that this experience is life-changing, and you can be a part of it. For more information and to sign up, visit wingwomenweekend.com. That's www.wingwomenweekend.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories. Friends, today I'm honored to welcome someone whose story is deeply rooted in service, resilience, and community. Dakarai Larriett is a proud Alabama native, the son of a U.S. Army veteran and a public school teacher, and someone who has walked a remarkable path from excelling as an honor student to building a successful career in business to pouring his heart into volunteer work in Birmingham, Alabama. Perhaps what makes his journey so compelling is not just the accomplishments, but the turning point. His false arrest in 2024, an experience that could have broken his spirit, but instead lit a fire in him to pursue justice and create change. He's now running for the U.S. Senate, motivated not only by the personal experience, but also a lifelong commitment to servant leadership. We'll talk about his upbringing, the lessons from his mom and dad, and education, his entrepreneurial journey, and of course, his vision for Alabama and beyond. Dakarai, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. It's really an honor to be here.
And it's really exciting to have you. So I'm going to ask you what I ask every one of my guests. Tell us your coming out story.
Well, for starters, I was born a Catholic and raised as a Jehovah's Witness until about 20. I started to realize as a teenager that I was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And I hid that within me because it is absolutely not permitted within the Jehovah's Witness religion. Truly, for me, the moment of coming out was when I had a summer internship in New York City. And I just started to see the world. And I worked in Times Square. And I would sometimes walk to Chelsea after work. And I remember the first time I saw men holding hands and I had heart palpitations. And then I realized my boss was gay and I realized it's okay. It's okay. And I stopped going to church. And one of my childhood friends from Alabama happened to go to my church in New York. And word got back to my mom that I was not going to church.
Did you get in trouble?
I got in trouble. Mom called to figure out what was going on. And I brushed it off as long as I could. And finally, a couple months later, I sent my parents an email. And back then, when you sent an email, you didn't get a response right away. So I sent it, and then I had this pit in my stomach for probably a couple of weeks. And then I got the call from my mom and my dad, and it was a three-way call, and we had a family meeting.
And how was that for you? Because people who don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses are very anti-LGBTQ. And there's, if you don't know, there's lots of Facebook groups that support people who have left the Jehovah's Witness faith tradition. But it's tough. So how was mom and dad during that time?
Yeah. So I got the call, And my mom said I suspected it. And then my dad said, you're going to get AIDS and die. And that was it. So it was a lot of just not talking and avoiding for several years. And finally, they came around because they just loved me. It was small things. It was like bringing a boyfriend home for example, my grandfather's funeral. And in that moment, how are you going to be homophobic? This is the person that loves me and is caring for me and flew all the way here for this traumatic life event. And that's how they started to open up. And finally, they've really turned a corner.
Mhm.
10 years ago, my dad died. And the last thing I remember him telling me was his favorite television show was Will and Grace.
Good
So
for
he
him.
never apologized, but that was it for me. I knew that he had accepted me.
In 2024, you had an incident happen to you. And so can you tell our audience what happened?
Yes. So I was driving through the state of Michigan and I was living in Alabama and happened to be basically packing up my home in Michigan and moving to Alabama for good. As fate would have it, I was stopped by the police and subjected to, gosh, 7 at least sobriety tests in the cold, back to back to back, under the allegation that I was driving under the influence of alcohol,
Mhm.
and subjected to racial profiling, subjected to homophobia. I actually tested negative for alcohol at the hospital. So they took me from the traffic stop. I guess I was arrested. So I was cuffed and they actually did a blood draw. So they didn't even do a breathalyzer at the site. And
Mhm.
even after passing that, was thrown into jail and was tortured, accused of swallowing and ingesting drugs and trafficking drugs through my stomach,
Mhm.
forced to use the restroom publicly. And I have been fighting for justice ever since that day.
First of all, that is a heartbreaking story, and unfortunately, a very common story in this country. And so, first of all, my heart goes out to you for having to have to deal with something like that. How shocked were you? I mean, you were
Yeah,
profiled. I used to date an African American man when I was younger, and we
really.
back in the 80s, we used to get pulled over all the time for driving black and blonde.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's the first I heard that one, Amber.
Made that up. We were. We got pulled over all the time, and they'd always look at me and say, "Are you okay, miss?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, first of all, were you surprised? I'm just because you like, at this point, you're in your early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, you've had anything like that ever happen to you before?
And no. So that was the thing. Even though it had not happened to me personally, you get the talk. Like,
Mhm,
I remember getting my first car with my dad and all these different things about keeping the flashlight in the car. Like, it's drilled into your mind that it will happen. So I was one of the lucky ones that it happened when I was 42, at the means and the mental capacity to handle the situation properly.
mhm,
But truly, I was not shocked. What shocked me came 5.5 months later when I got the body cam
mhm.
and realized that the troopers were trying to plant drugs in my car.
My goodness. Oh my
Yes.
good.
And it all made sense then because they charged me for driving under the influence of drugs, and that was tossed out within a matter of days because there was no evidence.
There's no evidence, true.
They accused me of trafficking drugs by ingestion through my stomach.
Mhm.
And then that never landed because a technician came on and said, "Oh, he just has gas in his stomach. There's nothing in his stomach
Well, and
besides."
also, like, all the stress of being falsely arrested.
Exactly.
That would make my stomach I would have to be in the bathroom.
Exactly. Exactly. So the troopers clearly wanted a drug charge that night, and it just all kind of made sense. They were in disbelief that I could drive a Cadillac legitimately. They asked my friend, "Hey, is this really his car?" After I showed all the documentation.
Mhm,
And we also saw on the body cam and the dash cam that they were making fun of my African name before
mhm.
they even stopped me. So the interesting thing, we talked a little bit about race earlier. It was a black cop and a white cop. And it starts out with the black cop making fun of my name with a very exaggerated and embarrassing accent. And then the white cop says, Daiquiri, Daiquiri, I hope you're not drinking daiquiris. And that's when I'm pulled over.
Can I ask you, do you think so of course it's racial profiling, but in the text the readings you sent me, they made fun of you because you're a gay man. And it was obvious to them that you're a gay man. Do you think the homophobia made it worse? Or do you think they're just bigots and they're just going to be bigoted about anything that can make them feel more powerful than you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question, Anne-Marie. And I think the whole situation reveals just how complicated
Yeah.
discrimination is. Because do you really think someone who has an animus like that draws the line at sexism, or they draw the line at transphobia, or they draw the line at homophobia or racism? Like, they
Mhm.
probably spread it out pretty evenly.
Yeah, that's a good.
And so the other thing that came out of this was we did a social media search for the troopers, maybe a day or two after I got out of jail, and was shocked to find reams of homophobic, transphobic, and racist posts on Twitter. And that's when it clicked with me. He kept saying, fruity, fruity, it smells fruity. You guys smell fruity. And I told my buddy who was in the passenger seat, so there is another person that was in the seat, but it's kind of hard to see from the white trooper's body cam. He colors his hair in like very bright colors, like in a way that if you saw the two of us together, you'd assume those are two gay guys out
Mhm,
for a ride at night,
mhm,
and nothing wrong with it.
mhm,
But between that, his presentation, my friend's presentation, the two of us out at night, and all the comments about fruitiness, and then finding the trove of homophobic posts, it made sense. And when I asked my buddy, hey, what did you think about the night? He immediately focused on all the comments about fruity, because he's like, we weren't drinking. We didn't smell of anything. Why would you say
mhm,
we smell
mhm,
fruity?
mhm. Did he get arrested as well or just you?
So I was arrested, as mentioned, for driving under the influence of drugs, and that was thrown out. My friend was allowed to park the car because we had just pulled into his driveway, and they allowed him to park the car, and that's where it stayed overnight.
Mhm. So he didn't get arrested at
He
all
did
or
not.
anything?
No.
No. Well, okay, bad things happen,
Yeah,
but it lit a fire under you.
it did. I'm already developing policy.
Yeah, and my goodness, if you could do something to change this, that would be amazing because as a mom of 2 boys, I don't know what African American and brown people go through, and I just as a mother, that terrifies me. Every time your child leaves the house, you have to think, "I hope they come home okay." My heart goes out to African American mothers and any mother that has to worry about their child's safety simply because of the color of their skin. And
Yeah,
so fucking unfair, and it
it
makes me
is.
furious. It's just unfair, like, everybody should just be able to live their lives.
Yeah.
I would like to take a little bit and, like, find out about you, and so I've got some questions, okay?
All right.
Right. So you're the son of a U.S. Army veteran and a public school teacher. What values from your parents shape the way you see leadership and service?
That resilience, that is the one thing that always kind of, if I think back to my parents, sticks out. And my mom earned her master's while I was in middle school. So imagine she's teaching, let's say 7 to 3 o'clock, typical
Mhm,
hours for a teacher. Then
mhm.
she's going and taking master's level classes. She's making sure that we're fed. She's taking care of the house. That level of resilience is something that sticks with me. And I talked a little bit about this in my book too. One of the memories from my father is him shining his boots. And it's something I did today before I went off to a political meeting. And that constant desire to present as well as you can, as well as you can, um, in every single situation, no matter what, that sticks with me.
You moved around a lot as a kid, and you
You
even lived
did.
internationally. How does that affect the way you think about community? But did it affect how you view the United States? Because I think it's really important for our leaders to have some experience or another worldview of this country. So, how did that affect you living in another country?
That's a great question. So we lived in California, Oklahoma, Washington State, and Germany all before my third grade. So that's a lot of moving, but
Yes.
it makes you think bigger. You've got to be able to adapt very quickly to different environments, and it gives you a baseline to compare, I would say, environments. So, this is a good school. And that's something that's going to be a real big part of my campaign is education. I went to some bad schools along the way, but then I could see, wow, this is what good funding looks like. This is what equitable funding looks like. And these are the results you can start to see in the population when you invest in them. So
Mhm.
that was critical. And I think in terms of my perspective of the US, it takes away that whole US centric mentality and you can see the rest of the world, other perspectives, other languages. Now, sadly, when you're on a base, they kind of, at least at that time, did not encourage foreign languages like they really did want us to stay Americanized, but still you get that perspective of other cultures and it's so important.
Well, yes, because you get off hopefully you go off the base once in a while and go,
Yeah, yeah.
so you're a little smarty pants. So you
Thank you.
full scholarship to the University of Alabama, and then you spent a year at Howard. How did these experiences expand your vision for what's possible? I mean, earning a full scholarship, were you in sports?
No, I was just like you said, a smarty pants. I got an academic scholarship, no sports besides ballet. So one small fun fact is that I was a ballet major in high school. I went to the Alabama School of Fine Arts, and it's one of the best ranked public schools in America. And that set me up for University of Alabama. And it's an international institution. Even back then, I remember meeting my first person from the United Arab Emirates, and it was just like a mini world of people going to school, which is truly, it's a shame to think about folks now bypassing the United States because of all the challenges, being faced here. Because I learned from those people. I still have a friend in South Korea that I met and we were study mates. So again, it just opened up my world, kind of like that experience living in Germany when my dad was in the service. And I continue to learn from these people.
My oldest daughter went to McAllister, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they were very intentional about being international because they're in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's very Midwest white. And that was the coolest thing because they really did create international citizens from their students. And I just really admire that. So, what was it like going from the University of Alabama to Howard, which, if people don't know, a Black university? It must have been nice. Was it?
Well, this is another fun fact. So, education has just been a big part of my family's history. And I believe that education breaks the poverty cycle.
Mhm.
And my grandfather went to, I guess they call it a K to 8 school. It was a 3 to 4 room Rosenwald school just outside of Montgomery.
Mhm.
And he saw better for his children. So, my mom, his daughter, was the first to get a college degree. And she went to Alabama State University,
Mhm.
which is another historically Black
Darkly black.
college.
Yep.
So that's a family tradition. One of my cousins serves on the board there. So HBCUs are part of our family history.
Mhm.
And I wanted that experience, but at the moment, I thought University of Alabama was the right fit for me and the scholarship was really enticing.
Well, yeah, of
But
course.
yeah, but oh my gosh, just being in the combination of being in
So did
Washington.
you do undergrad there or did you get your master's at Howard?
So I got my undergrad from University of Alabama. I did a semester exchange to Howard
It's semester abroad.
and then domestic exchange, but I did earn my master's from NYU in business.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I read somewhere that you learned really your passion for public service at Howard.
Yeah.
What was about that time that
Yeah.
started spark the shift? And it sounds like you come from a family where that was just instinctive, but then all of a sudden you're showing up and doing some of that work. So what sparked that shift?
Being in DC, really, it just, again, these experiences are so critical. Travel, like anytime I can encourage a young person, like just to go outside of your city, go outside of your state, I do that because in DC, I could just see the gears of government working for us. And in that time, I interned over the summer at US Airways, which became American Air. So I got to see at that time, I guess, that one of the biggest or the biggest airline in the country operate from the inside out. Like, what do
Mhm.
the regulations look like? The testing, all of the quality control. And I just started to think about how I could have an impact on people's lives through government
Mhm.
and public service. And that spawned me going into board work and volunteer work. When I ultimately graduated and moved to New York, I volunteered on the Bronx Community Pride Center board
Mhm.
and rose up to be VP of Finance.
Mhm.
And in that role, I was focused on our LGBT youth of the South Bronx, and many of whom are unhoused. So it's really a dual function, advocating for those individuals, providing funding and activities, and making sure that they can be whatever they want to be in life. From there, went on to join the board of the National Harm Reduction Coalition. So helping those impacted by drug use and those communities and fighting the opioid crisis. So it really did, I would say, was a launching point for my public service career.
So why did you go to NYU? Did you go for you got your master's there, so did you do it for business or something else?
Yes, I did it for business and I did that part time. So I was trying to balance a lot of different things. So working during the day and volunteering and then taking business courses at night. So that went on for about 3, 4 years.
We would have been friends because I went to got my master's degree when I had 4 kids between the ages of 2 and 12, and I went to Yale Divinity School, and so I was like, "Man, that's a woman after my own heart." That is. Okay. So, this is the coolest thing about you that I think is so cool about you is you started a business in your
Yeah, I
garage,
don't sleep.
building a corporate leadership careers, so you're an entrepreneur too.
Yes,
I tell you, I became an entrepreneur late in life in my 50s. It's taught me so much. What did it teach you?
discipline.
Yeah.
Because again, I had my corporate career during the day and I would literally be packing out orders at midnight.
Mhm.
So I had to balance the two because that's the other thing. There's this period where most of us are not getting 7-figure loans from our family, and we've
Mhm.
got to manage the cash flow by working another job. And I did that for at least a decade plus, where I really needed that corporate job to provide the cash flow for the business. And then at some point, obviously, I was able to kind of let go of the corporate work. So the discipline, the focus, attention to detail, and you learn every function. HR in particular, I learned a lot of HR skills before I started managing large teams in corporate America through my own business.
Can I ask you what kind of pet care business was it?
Grooming products. So I have a little poodle named Dada, and when I adopted Dada, he was terrified of thunderstorms, and he would just cry and cry and cry and pace. And so finally, I bought a candle, an aromatherapy candle, and brought it home, burned it, and he went to sleep. And I said, I'm on to something now. And I just started doing some research and then found anecdotally that animals like dogs have a sense of smell 100,000 times greater than our own. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense that aromatherapy would work for them. What about essential oils? What about shampoos? What about sprays? And then that spawned a whole empire. And so now the products are sold all over the world.
It's impressive. That is very, very impressive. I just wanna know, where did you have time to sleep with your board?
Did it?
Can we say over functioning? So, you're in New York. How long did you live in New York?
15 years. So I got there right after graduation, 2 weeks. I could not find a job in Alabama. So that's what led me to New York. And that's one of the areas I want to work on is we have a brain drain of talent where
Right.
people go to our great institutions here in Alabama and then they go to New York and they go to Atlanta. So yeah, I ended up in New York. I was there for about 15 years. And then with the pandemic, I had the flexibility of working remote and I bought this place here and moved back.
Well, the only weird place there's no brain drain in Alabama is Huntsville because it's got the highest concentration of PhDs in the
My
country.
gosh. And we have another neighborhood or town called Fairhope in South Alabama. Now, these are mostly retirees, but you have a lot of PhDs there too.
So you go back to Birmingham and you become known for community engagement. And so now I'm going to throw out a very Christian word to you, and that's
Oh,
servant leadership. And I think that's important to you. So how do you, as somebody who believes in community engagement, how does servant leadership look like for you in your everyday life? What does it look
For me, it means how are you supporting the team to do their best? That's what I think the role is of a servant leader. And how are you supporting the community?
like? Hmm.
And that's how I approach most challenges. And I like to say, moving back here to Alabama and buying this loft was my lesson in civics and community organizing. So when we moved into the lofts, we realized that they were lemons. They were leaking, there were issues, all types of problems. And the developer refused to resolve the issues. And I just sprung into action and started just making lists, documenting, creating videos, working with the developer. I was elected as the first board member, and I'm now serving as the treasurer. And it's a significant building for Birmingham and for Alabama, 60 commercial and residential units.
It
So
sounds
it's a large complex.
sounds like to me that you're somebody when you see something that is problematic, you're going to do something to make it better.
Always.
It seems like it's a theme of your life.
It is. It is. Now, I will say, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more patient, but I used to think I could change everything all at once. You've got to give people breathing room to get on board. That's one thing I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. Certainly, suing the state of Michigan, like that's a process. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not.
There are going to be many delays. So patience is something I've worked on and continue to work on. But yeah, you're right. When I see a problem, I'm looking for a solution.
Okay. You found your way back to faith. You belong to the United
Yeah.
Methodist Church in Birmingham. As somebody who really wrestled with faith, especially when I came out as queer, and I do a lot of work with deconstruction faith with people now, I lost my faith for a while. I never stopped believing in a higher power, something greater than ourselves, but I was really angry at
Hmm.
God, higher power, ultimate concern. I always call it all different names because God can be problematic, especially in our queer community.
Right.
So, and people believe all kinds of things. Did you have that? Did you like when you first came out, you're like, I'm done. Like my wife, when she had her first experience when she was 18, she was raised Southern Baptist. She also came out in the 80s.
Oof.
Um, thought she was going to shoot straight to hell.
Yeah.
She thought that was it. I'm done for. I'm going to go right to hell. Did you have that? Did you have that
Okay.
have that wrestling? And how did you read? And maybe you didn't. Maybe you started going to a United Methodist Church right away. But how did you read? How did you return to that? Because when you're because a lot of people, if you're straight and listening to this, what a lot of people don't understand is when you come out as queer, especially from places like Jehovah Witnesses, your very being is sinful and wrong.
Yes.
And so it takes a lot of people a lot of time. And so people go a couple different routes. One of them is they reject faith at all, and they're not going to believe in anything. And that is their life. But some of us return, and that's you. So how did that all happen? I'm a minister, so I'd love to hear about that.
You love each other, but lately, it feels like you're speaking different emotional languages. Strengthening Love is a powerful relationship course created just for lesbian couples. You'll learn how to break painful patterns, communicate with compassion, and feel truly seen again together. Created by LGBTQ+ experts, it's affirming, practical, and designed for real-life connection. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access, and real change. Visit healthylesbianrelationships.com to enroll today. Because your love deserves more than just getting by. It deserves to grow.
So for me, there was this kind of 20-year lost year gap where I was just so dejected.
Yeah.
And remember, for the Jehovah's Witness faith, you are told that it is the only true religion, only one.
Well, so is the
So
Catholics that
that's
you
it. That's it. So I'm looking and I'm seeing there are these affirming churches, and I'm coming from a lifetime of being a witness, and I'm thinking that's not a real religion, right? So 20 years goes by and I moved back to Alabama. And one of my alumni friends said, "Hey, I'm going to church. Why don't you join me?" And because he was my friend, I just said yes and not really thinking anything of it. And the first meeting we went to, the pastor, who was a woman, so that shocked me. That was the first time in my life at 40 something years old, right, that I saw a woman pastor, says, "Oh, we need some volunteers to get our float ready for Pride." And I'm just like, wait, what? And so that's how I found my church.
So I understand and like finding a faith community that fits you, like being with a woman minister for the first time, to
Yeah.
me, that blew me away. Blew me away.
Okay.
So you've never had that experience. It's really exciting the first
Yeah.
time you see it, you
It's a
know?
different perspective.
It
So
is.
I'll give you an example. The way that she tells stories is so different from a very patriarchal way that I grew up. So she told a story about resurrection. And first of all, it's United Methodist Church. So they're always kind of coming back to an understanding that these were written by men. They're largely parables. What can we learn from them? But anyway, she tells the story of the resurrection from a feminist angle of Jesus revealed himself to a woman first. So doesn't that mean we should respect women and that they should have a place of honor within the church? And I was like, I've never heard that before.
Smiling because I wrote a paper and I compared Mary, the mother of Jesus, the Seraphim, and Mary Magdalene, and talked about how they all heralded three different events in Jesus's ministry. And without those women, so for example, his mother's saying they have no wine, and he's like, I don't want to do this. And she like sort of forces, she pushes her baby out of the bassinet. And then with the Syrophoenician, the way it reads is that Jesus had no idea, like he was going to minister to the Gentiles. And then with Mary Magdalene, all the guys showed up, but the only person that Jesus talked to was Mary Magdalene. He told her to go and tell the rest of the world. And so I feel like there's such a woven story between Jesus and the women of the Bible. And I think a lot of times their stories, just like queer stories and African Americans, our stories get lost a lot. I really appreciate that you go and have a different perspective now. So let's talk about a little bit about the future. So if you're elected, what are your first three top priorities for Alabama?
My priorities are now. And I always answer like, what can you do now when you have this platform? So it's about education, healthcare, economic opportunity, and social justice. And when I think about like, what am I doing now with this platform? I am joining protests and fighting for release of body cam and ensuring that families get justice and
Mhm.
clarity about what happened when their Black sons are the subject of police homicides. I recently spoke at a prison oversight committee at our state house. So that is where our legislator meets here in Alabama, and admonished them to think about the laws that they're passing and if they truly are benefiting the citizens or protecting law enforcement and corrections officers. So that's the work that I'm doing now and traveling around the state, getting myself educated so that I can build out a really detailed policy proposal to address all those areas.
We live in very polarized times. Like in my life, I've got a good 17, 18 years on you, and I have never seen anything like this. It frightens me. How do you bridge the divide, Dakari?
We're trying to change hearts, and a lot of it is just being present and speaking to people, going into their spaces and talking to them. And for example, like I am talking to anybody who will talk to me. So we've made contact with the Buddhist group here in
Mhm.
town. I've already met with the Quakers. And when we get together, we realize we have so much in common. We want to see better for all people. Most of us really do. Maybe the specifics of how we get there are a little bit different, but that's what I'm trying to get people to realize is we want to move the ball down the field in the same direction.
Mhm.
This is how we can do it. These are some key milestones that we can agree upon. And if that's the case, let's move forward.
So a lot of times when you're talking to politicians, people ask questions about things that their state does wrong. What does Alabama do right?
Yeah. Well, people don't realize this. We are the Amazon of the United States.
Meaning
So
the
we
river or the
have
company?
oh gosh, no, not the company. No, 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 no. In terms of biodiversity.
Mhm,
So we are to this day still 70% plus covered by forestry.
mhm.
And it is a beautiful, beautiful state. And we have got to continue fighting to protect it. And there, for example, are so many species of animals here that, I mean, you would just be blown away. Like, you'll be like, I didn't realize there were 40 species of this creature in the state of Alabama. So that's something that we're so proud of and something we need to protect.
So look, I have a question about things people will be surprised about you. So we've talked about two of them, your pet business and that you were a ballet dancer in high
Okay,
school.
got that one.
What is something else that would be surprising to people outside of your business and your politics?
Gosh, it's funny, when you decide to run for office, you do what's called a opposition research and you do a self research. And we did a self research and I'm just kind of like waiting to get everything back. And I get it back from the analyst and she's like, "You're just not that interested." I just wrote a book, Anne-Marie, so everything's in there, but I'll think of one thing. I've
Mhm.
seen a ghost at least once and I photographed it with picture perfect clarity. And even then, I did not want to believe it because I just, sometimes it's embarrassing, right? To say I saw a ghost or things like that. But it's in my book, so take a look, and it's in the photo section, and it was on St. Patrick's Day, 2022, and I think it was St. Patrick. It is just the
Very
clarity
interesting.
of it. The You literally see the eyes, the nose, the face, the beard. You see
Where in the world?
in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. And I was at what I learned later was a haunted castle.
Wow.
And so I saw this weird stream of light and I was really upset when I looked at my photos because I thought the photo had been ruined. And when I zoomed in, I saw the face and the body and I saw the cardinal hat with the cross in it. It's all visible in the photo. It's so
I believe in
yeah,
ghosts. Somebody as somebody who worked in hospice for 7 years, there is definitely so much more to this world than
right,
we could ever imagine.
right.
You you say, Kari, you work your ass off. How do you relax?
Uh
Do you relax?
I
And I hope you do, because if you're taking this job on, you're gonna
No, my passion is travel. I think that's born from my dad's early years of service. I love to travel. I've been to 55 countries. And
good for you. That's
yeah,
impressive.
so that's my passion. Just seeing different cultures, trying new foods, things like that. That really
Well,
brings me
also
to
t
life.
yeah, and also too, as somebody who is desiring to be in leadership in this country, as we move towards more of a world stage versus, like, US first, US only, um, I think that's really important to have experience and exposures to other cultures besides the US. Because one of the things that, like, I have learned over the last, 10 years of all of this craziness is I have been sold a bill of goods about my country.
Yeah,
Like, it's my eyes my lens has shifted, and there is an arrogance to the US that I never realized before until this current administration. That has like, we need leaders that have exposure to other worlds and other ideas. That is really important because if we're going to be a global community, we need that. You can't be my country first and that's it. So first of all, I always end the show by asking 3 different questions, and one of the first questions I ask is, "Did you have a coming out song?"
so the one that I selected, because I've never been asked this question before, was the Temple song from Jesus Christ Superstar. And I love the visual of it as well as the words. Um,
Which one is the temple song?
so this is where the coin changers and all the commerce is happening
Oh,
at the temple. And then Jesus kind of like throws them out. So it's just kind of like the drama of it and the fact that he says out at the end. And I think about what my parents thought my life would be like by coming out. And so that was what I landed on. And thank you so much for the question.
Have you watched any of the Cynthia Erivo performances of Jesus Christ Superstar on the
I
You
have
need
not
to watch
seen it
that.
though. I have
Oh
not
gosh,
seen it.
there's a gay man dying to get out of me. Love Broadway. And I like all my feed was for about a week was Cynthia Erivo playing Jesus. You need to go to those.
Okay. Well, I'll be up in New York soon.
She's really powerful. And like when she was in Wicked, she was amazing, but you really have to go watch that. Do you have a book or a movie that really changed your life?
Book would have to be The Cool Life and Hot Times of Anna Wintour, Vogue's
Well,
editor-in-chief.
yeah. So why that?
I realized that you can be very effective without being that warm and fuzzy person. Sometimes when you're putting on this persona that's not who you are, you become less effective in your work. And Anna Wintour doesn't do that. And that kind of gave me the permission that sometimes I just need to be direct and get the work done.
Mhm.
And it served me really well for the last 20 years. I guess I read the book about 20 years ago.
Well, I think that as when we're younger, a lot of times we have been conditioned to be people pleasing. It's
Yes.
sort of how we make our way in this world. And then as we get older, like that does for some of us, that desire leaves us. And so Anna Wintour definitely is not a people pleaser. How do you describe your life today, Dakarai?
It is dynamic in that every single day can be different. So today I had lunch with the former US Senator, and now I'm meeting with you today for this amazing interview.
Mhm.
Or I'll be calling donors, cold calling for cash. So each day is different. It takes a lot of resilience and uh, perseverance.
Yes. So tell us, first of all, you have this new book out. What's the name? How do people find it? Let's talk a little bit about that. And then after that, how can people help you out?
Yeah.
How can people follow you? All those questions.
So the book is Don't Flush, and it is my story of false arrests to political awakening. And it is available on Amazon in ebook format, paper book format, and Audible. So the Audible version is dramatic. It feels like a movie. So I really recommend that. And for most people who have the subscription service, it's included. So no extra cost. So we just want as many people to read it as possible and talk about it. Here in Alabama, Democrats like myself don't get 6-figure and 7-figure checks, but it's people who vote. So we need you to talk about us, all Democrats, talk about us, share our posts, like our posts, help us to get some visibility because we're not going to get the same amount of cash. It's just not going to happen. And that's how we win.
So how do people donate to you?
They can donate if they're able to at DakariLarriett.com, and it's all connected to our ActBlue account. And again, right now it's all about that visibility, getting the name out. And if you can't help, certainly take a look at our webpage, DakariLarriett.com.
And do you have any social media accounts that people can follow?
Yes, everything's going to be under my name, my weird name, Dakarai Larriett. So you'll find me really quickly.
Easy to find. I have a weird name too. I think I'm the I get it.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of Z's.
Actually, it's a made up name because my dad, yes, it's a made up name by some teacher from 1930 something.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I have a weird name too. So I'm the only one out there. So Dakarai, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story. And I wish you nothing but good luck and great mojo as you have the strength to run for Senate. It's a lot of work, and I'm very excited for you. And I'm very excited that you chose our show to come on. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, and it's been so exciting.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA+ stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at AnneMarieZanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit AnneMarieZanzal.com.